Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some kids get picked on just because of who they are, and what we can actually do about it? Today we're diving deep into bias-based bullying. That is when someone is targeted not just because they're a bully's target, but because they belong to a group that is seen as different or less valuable. Think about bullying based on someone's race, their religion, their gender identity, or if they have a disability. The researchers here set out to understand how this happens, and more importantly, how we can actually stop it. The big idea here is stigma. Stigma is like a mark of disgrace. When a group has a stigma attached to it, people tend to have negative thoughts, feelings, and actions towards members of that group. The paper breaks down stigma into 4 types. First up is public stigma. This is the negative stuff that society as a whole thinks about the stigmatized group. Then there is stigma-by-association, which is when people get treated badly because they're friends or family with someone from a stigmatized group. Structural stigma is about how institutions like schools or governments might have policies or practices that unfairly disadvantage certain groups. Finally, there is self-stigma, which is when someone with a stigmatized identity starts to believe those negative things about themselves. In schools, public stigma shows up in how peers treat each other. Why do kids bully others based on their group? The paper suggests it's because of negative beliefs they hold about that group, and sometimes they might feel anxious about the other group. Kids who are good at understanding others' feelings and intentions are less likely to bully, while those who can justify their bad behavior are more at risk. But what about the bystanders, the kids who see it happening? Many know it is wrong, but they don't step in. Why? They might not realize they have a role, or they might not know what to do. Sometimes they also worry about getting involved themselves, especially if it goes against what their friends think is okay. It's interesting that kids are more likely to help someone from their own group than someone from an out group. Teachers are also a big piece of the puzzle. They can create a safe space, but sometimes kids don't tell teachers because they think nothing will be done. And sadly, sometimes teachers themselves aren't great at responding. It is not always easy for teachers. They might feel unsure how to talk about these topics, worried about saying the wrong thing. They might even have their own biases or not see some bullying as very harmful. Let's touch on stigma by association again, specifically in schools. Imagine if a child is bullied because their parent is in jail. That is stigma by association. Bystanders might also avoid intervening for fear of being targeted themselves. Structural stigma in schools means looking at the rules and how the school is run. Having a clear anti-bullying policy is important, but the paper points out that in the UK, for example, not all schools actually have policies that specifically address bias-based bullying. And even if they do, a policy is useless if it is not actively promoted and put into practice. And then there is self-stigma. When kids are bullied relentlessly for who they are, they can start to believe the bad things others say about them. This really hurts their self-worth. The consequences are serious anxiety, depression, feeling alone, even thoughts of suicide. And if someone has multiple stigmatized identities, they're at even greater risk. So, how do kids cope with this? They use strategies to deal with a situation called problem-focused coping, like reporting the bullying or confronting the bully, or they use emotion-focused coping, trying to manage their feelings, like talking to friends or finding comfort in religion. Often they use a mix of both, depending on what is happening. The big takeaway from this research is that to tackle bias-based bullying, we need to focus on reducing stigma on all these different levels. It is not a simple problem with a simple fix. The researchers explored different behavior change methods. They explained that for interventions to work, we need to understand why the bullying is happening and who we're trying to help. Then we can choose the right strategies. For public stigma and stigma by association, one powerful method is intergroup contact. This means bringing kids from different groups together in positive ways. It's not just about putting them in the same room, though they need to feel equal, work together, and have supportive norms. Think about cooperative learning projects where everyone has to rely on each other. Another method is empathy induction through perspective taking. This involves helping children imagine what it is like to be in the shoes of someone who is being bullied. It is about understanding their feelings, not just feeling sorry for them. Giving kids information about what their peers and teachers think about prejudice behavior can also help. If they see that negative attitudes aren't approved of, they're less likely to adopt them. And of course, encouraging bystander intervention is key. Training kids to know how to step in safely and effectively can make a huge difference. To tackle structural stigma, we need to look at the bigger picture. Methods like media advocacy can raise awareness about how discrimination affects young people. Developing and enforcing clear laws and school policies against bias-based bullying is essential. This means schools need to have specific sections in their anti-bullying plans, and these policies need to be consistently applied. Multicultural education, which teaches about different cultures and perspectives, can also be a part of this. For self-stigma, the focus is on building resilience in the young people who are targeted. This involves teaching them social and emotional skills, helping them build strong support networks, and planning coping responses. Empowerment is also crucial. It is about helping young people feel confident and capable of making changes in their environment. By working together, they can develop strategies to challenge discriminatory practices. So, what does this all mean? Bias-based bullying is a serious problem with deep roots in stigma. It affects kids on many levels, from individual interactions to wider school policies. But here is the hopeful part: there are evidence-based ways to fight it. The researchers have given us a roadmap. They've laid out methods like intergroup contact, empathy building, empowering students, and changing school structures. They also emphasize that these methods need to be tailored to specific situations and age groups. The biggest takeaway is that addressing bias-based bullying requires a comprehensive approach. It is not enough to just tell bullies to stop. We need to change attitudes, support victims, and create schools where everyone feels safe and valued. This study is really important because it gives us practical tools and a framework for understanding and tackling this complex issue. It reminds us that changing attitudes and behaviors takes time and effort, but it is absolutely worth it for the well-being of our children. What are your thoughts on these strategies? Have you seen any of them work or not work in your own experience or in your community? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this a helpful explanation of the research, please give this video a like and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more deep dives into the science of the mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.